Corla. Minister, after midnight on the morning of September 9th, 37 mainly Irish citizens landed in Tel Aviv for a week-long trip to the West Bank. For some of them, it was a trip that they've made for over a decade. But by 5:30 that morning, 4 of them, Clare Daly, Stephen McCluskey, Joan Nolan and Fidelma Bonas, had been deported on spurious grounds of preventing illegal immigration and a danger to public safety. Minister, this is an absolute outrage, and I want to know what your department are doing to take it up.
Deputy Daly, I'm very much aware of the deportation of these 4 individuals that you've listed out, and the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade was notified immediately by one of the individuals themselves. We have since received letters from each of them about the particular incident. The leader of the group has led study groups to the West Bank for over 10 years, a total of 17 tour groups involving over 400 people. These groups met a range of Israeli and Palestinian NGOs and other interlocutors and studied issues on the ground relating to the occupation of the West Bank. She has, as usual, advised the Department and this individual in advance of the dates and the itinerary of the tour so that our missions would be aware that there is a large group of citizens touring the area. No detailed reason for refusing admission to Israel was given to them, other than a generic explanation that it was for immigration reasons. And in the case of the leader, Ms Daly, also because of unspecified public security, public safety or public order considerations. 33 of the group entered Israel, but unfortunately these 4 were deported. No report, no allegation has ever been made to the Department of Foreign Affairs of any legitimate concerns about the activities of these study groups. The group leader has also stated that she has never taken part in any demonstration in Palestine, nor have any of the group's programmes included attendance at a demonstration. Without a more specific explanation, it is very difficult to do other than conclude that the exclusion of these persons is part of the ongoing effort to suppress scrutiny and criticism of Israeli policies in the West Bank. The Ambassador in Tel Aviv has already called to the Israeli Foreign Minister and requested an explanation for this action, and we are awaiting a response. And I will assure the Deputy and the persons concerned are notified when we hear more. And I know that it is a Jewish high holiday at the moment, so there is a delay in that bus. The minute we hear a response from them, we will report back to the individuals concerned and to the Deputy.
I would strongly reiterate her comments that the only conclusion you could draw from this order was an attempt by the Israeli state to avoid scrutiny of their activities in the West Bank, because I'd like to reiterate that the leader of the group, my sister, is non-political, has never been involved in any political party, or not that that's a reason anyway to exclude her, but she has never attended any protest. She's the only Irish person to be honoured with an honorary citizenship of Bethlehem because of her work, which is to invite people to go and see with their own eyes what goes on in the West Bank, to meet Israelis and Palestinians. The other individuals, Stephen McCluskey is a director of an NGO in Belfast on educational and global studies, published many articles and been to Gaza many times. Joan Nolan has been 8 times to Palestine, again a community activist who does voluntary work, non-political. Fidelma Bonas, again a person who's brought Palestinian cultural groups to Ireland. It is an absolute outrage that they were treated like this. It's a trip that they make every year, plans made to take time off work, to give up their valuable holidays, to bring support, some money into the local economy, and products and clothes and assistance to women's groups and children's groups. And I really hope the department does follow it up.
As the Deputy is aware, the reason given on the deportation order don't really tell us anything, which is why we have asked for the explanation. And it may be that the refusal was on foot of legislation enacted earlier this year, which provided for admission to be refused to any person who has advocated or is a member of a group which has advocated a policy of boycott in relation to Israel or Israeli settlements in Palestine, known as BDS. I'm also aware that all 4 of the individuals were asked about alleged previous attendance at a demonstration in Palestine. However, I'm not sure that either of the explanation, well, I know that would not apply to all 4 persons, and I think I'm very happy to restate that the Government is not aware of any concerns about the actions of the individuals or their group, which could be a legitimate basis for concern or for exclusion. So again, to state that we must first allow the Israeli authorities to respond to our inquiry before commenting definitively, but at this moment in time it does not appear as though there was any real legitimate reason for their expulsion.
I appreciate the fact that the Minister and the Department have responded very promptly. I'm very glad to hear that, and I hope we do follow it through, because I'm very satisfied that there won't be any contradictory evidence given that would legitimately prohibit these people from visiting the West Bank. And I suppose when you think that this is the way Irish citizens with valid Irish passports are treated for supposedly immigration offences, it gives you an idea of the daily struggle that Palestinian citizens suffer in that region at the hand of the Israeli state. And to scream and shout at what are, they probably get insulted, but mature women who've never been involved in anything before is utterly outrageous. I think the work that these citizens have done, and as you say, 500 Irish people have attended those visits with no agenda at all other than for people to see with their own eyes. So I hope that when the response does come back, we can follow it up, because it's interesting that hundreds of Israelis get visas to come and work in this state every year. They're not treated like that, and it's utterly disgraceful.
You're not listed, but we'll take a brief supplementary.
And I do appreciate that. Thank you very much, Ceann Comhairle. And I just want to echo my support for what Deputy Daly has outlined, and of course the support of my party. As soon as I was contacted by two of the mentioned who are constituents of mine, I contacted Deputy O'Brien as our spokesperson, and I know that he has contacted the Minister and the Ambassador also. Human rights and the infringement of human rights have to be hugely important for all of us, and the fact that these four individuals who have given so much of their time to support the Palestinians and to make the world aware about the problems that they have. I've been to Palestine myself, I've been to Israel, and I have seen at first hand, and I know it's very important that the message gets out to the world what's happening in Palestine. So the four individuals that have been deported have been doing really a huge service to all of us. About 25 years ago, I organised a group of young people from Kildare to go to Northern Ireland to actually see on both sides. We visited both the Loyalists and Unionists as well as Sinn Féin, and it just struck me when I heard about this from Elaine initially that because I had organised that as a fact-finding mission, I could have then been stopped from going into Northern Ireland, and I would have found that absolutely appalling and a huge breach of my own rights. And I completely stand with Deputy Daly in relation to everything she has said. Thank you.
Minister, conclude.
I suppose deportation officials in Ireland have the same rights as any other deportation officials to make a call. However, I think as a government we need to closely observe what has happened here and the effects on the fact that they are possibly pursuing a more aggressive policy on deportations, because obviously this is impacting on the four individuals now. They may apply to return to Israel on future occasions, but obviously we would expect that at this moment in time they would expect to be excluded again. Looking at the broader picture, this government has on a number of occasions publicly commented on our concern about increasing moves in recent years to prevent the work of Israeli and Palestine NGOs in presence of international NGO workers and even international parliamentary and ministerial visits to part of the West Bank and to Gaza. A state which can stand over its actions needs to do none of these things, clearly. So again, I suppose it's just to say that we will closely observe these effects on the issues and look at this more aggressive policy, but obviously once we get a response back as well as to the reasoning, we will go back to the individuals.
Maureen O'Sullivan is question number 11.
Very much, if you would indulge me for a second.